you're on YouTube, push like, comment, and subscribe. Let me say it one more time. If you're on Facebook, push like, comment, and share. If you're on YouTube, push like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you're watching live, if you're interested for us to call your name out, if it doesn't, no interruption, just type in the IT person would put your name on the screen. And also push the bell notification to know when we are live. So just let you know those tidbits, let you know what's going on. I'd like to introduce you to a gentleman that I've been knowing for a short period of time, been meeting meetings and everything. But however, he answered a call of my podcast, and I want to introduce you to Mr. Randy Pinninger, and he's out of Belton, Texas, and he's the president and CEO of Belton Chamber of Commerce. That's just one of the things that he does. Not only that, he is a member of Western Hills Church of Christ, and it's under Pastor Scott Meyer. So we'll make sure we get that out there. And also, he's a Belton Tiger. You can tell by the red he has on, and he has red on every time you see him. And I believe his pajamas is red. I believe everything is red. So nothing wrong with that. So I do appreciate that. And not only that, but he's a good person and also a fellow Beltonian in Belton, Texas. So appreciate that. There's a lot to get to when we get to tell us a little bit about himself. Not only that, just let you know that he just came back from Israel, so he's kind of tired, wore out, but he answered the call to get this going on. So Randy, tell us a little bit about you before we talk about the trip and then your faith and all that. So.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I'm a big fan of yours, and as a fellow Belton, I'm not a native of Belton like you. I just got there as soon as I could, but we claim you still as one of ours in Belton.
Yes,
It is a great place to be a part of a community, and
Yes,
we, my wife Legay and I, found Belton. We wanted to sink deep roots into a community, and we found a place where we could invest and our family could really engage in a number of ways. And so it is definitely our home, and it is a community that has become very dear to us, certainly because of the people. I mean, we talk about the name Belton, but what that means is the people
Yes.
who are part of the community and the rich heritage, people who have been there for generations. I'm very a little bit envious of those who got to have generations from Belton. We just came and got here as soon as we could about 35 years ago. But we're not going anywhere. It is home for us. And so I don't know what you want to know about me. I just mentioned we came to Belton about 35 years ago. My wife, Legay, and I have been married a week from next week. It will be 42 years married. She's a great partner of mine in ministry and in community service, and we have been very richly blessed by opportunities to serve together throughout our community. We have 3 children, 9 grandchildren, who, man, being a grandfather, wow, it just doesn't get any better than that, you know. Unfortunately, all of our kids are spread out all over. We've got them up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and overseas, in fact. And so we don't get to see them maybe as much as we'd like, but we're going up. We got a grandson's birthday party Saturday, so we're looking forward to being with him. Anyway, that's our family. Legay and I met. Here's a little trivia you might not know. I'll give you little tidbits, and you can follow up wherever you want me to go. I actually was born and went to school in Fresno, California.
Wow.
Central California Valley, San Joaquin Valley, agricultural area. Not the California that we hear a lot about. That's Southern California. We thought they were weird even where I lived and grew up. But I was there, came to Texas, which sounds unusual, although my mother was born in Wichita Falls, Texas, and my parents' families migrated with the old Dust Bowl era from Texas to the Central Valley of California for the agricultural, in search of jobs back in those days. My generation migrated back then to Texas, but I came back to attend Abilene Christian University in Abilene, Texas, out in West Texas area. Legay, my wife, was there. We met in Abilene at school, and so I found my bride in Abilene and never turned back and didn't want to go back to California. We stayed in Texas since then, started our family in Abilene, eventually came down here. It's where we wanted to be and sink roots. So.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I get excited when you said about wedding anniversary. This coming Saturday, my wife and I will be married for 34 years.
There you go.
So,
Good deal.
So, I appreciate you
Well,
bringing that up.
happy anniversary. You did one of those spring break weddings too, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I really do appreciate you saying that, because I know she'll be watching eventually, and so got to give a shout out.
There you go.
So
There you go.
I must go home.
You must go home, and you and I know we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't have our partners beside us all the way. So,
Exactly.
I'm very thankful to have had that partner in ministry and community service and in family.
Yes.
It just really important. So.
I've heard this, and they said God uses marriage as a tool to show you who you are. And I'm like, wow. And I said, yes, it sure does. And it made me much better. Now, I didn't understand it at first. I remember when we going through marriage counseling, and our pastor at the present time, Pastor Ivan Tate, he gave me a legal sheet of paper, yellow, and gave her a legal sheet of paper. And she was writing, and she turned over, kept writing, and only put 2 pages. I mean, not 2 sentences. And he looked at mine, he looked at hers, looked back at mine, he said, you need a whole lot of help. And I said, sir, I've never been married before. I don't know what to expect. I have no idea. So he took us through that.
It's funny you say that. You think back 34 years, or Mike is 42 years, how little we knew,
Yes.
how naive we were, how we have no idea what we were getting to. But we thought we were pretty smart back in those days, or at least I did. Wow, what you don't know.
Exactly.
Looking back, we're richly blessed, and obviously wonderful opportunities. We've been able to experience some wonderful things together, but again, having a life partner is a special gift.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It sure is. Let's talk about your church, your faith.
Okay.
And we know that you belong to Western Hills Church
Yeah.
of Christ. Hear that, Scott Myers? Okay, so make
There
sure
you go, Scott.
he knows
Yeah,
that.
give Scott a.
Tell us how that has impacted your life, how it instilled your life, not only that, but have made you a better person in not only decision making, but what you do in life itself.
Yeah, well, like many folks, I don't remember not going to church. From my earliest memories are going to church. My parents took us to church every Sunday, Wednesday. We were there every time the doors open from before I can remember. And so I was raised in that. But I was one of those teenagers who didn't need all that and
Right,
thought
I
I found my rebellious side, and I'll spare those details. But, and again, as a lot of young people do, you kind of get raised in that and you take it for granted, and you kind of want to say, I don't want to be like those hypocrites, and I'm going to be better, and I don't need whatever you think. I had kind of some pretty good wake-up calls. God got my attention and said, no, that's not what this is all about, and showed me through some people, some young folks who were a little bit older than me, that there's a better way. And fortunately, when I was about 18, I kind of shifted back into gear and then said, I want to go to Abilene Christian.
Right.
And my grandfather had gone to Abilene Christian.
Okay.
And so there was a connection, but I had not imagined that at the time. That was an important decision in my faith journey. As I said, I have a family heritage, and I was raised in the Church of Christ. However, and it's not a lot different in the central California Valley than it was in West Texas, I found, because those were a lot of transplanted families who went out. So churches were similar, although the Churches of Christ are independent. There's not an overall governing hierarchy or body, so they're very independent, and you see a lot of variety and all that, and learned. But I had opportunities as a child to go visit and be. I was allowed and provided opportunities to experience other churches, other denominations, and to experience that and find other ways of worshiping God. In as I got to Abilene Christian, my faith kind of became my own. You know, as you do at that age, you leave your home and your parents, and you have to make your own decisions about going to church, about getting up, and what are you going to do, and how are you going to plug in. And again, what I went to school thinking I was going to do and what I ended up doing was different, because God had plans for me. He put people in my path to mentor and guide me and shape those decisions, fortunately. Keep me from making some bad decisions, I think. And then helping me find a partner, a life partner, who would reinforce that. She's a very faithful person. Her Legay's family served as missionaries in Brazil for 5 years. So she has some experience as a young child, kind of before middle school age, living in a foreign country and learning what that's about. As we came together, what do we want for our family? We wanted, because of her experiences, even not just in Texas, but outside of the country, in other cultures, and what church looks like there, and how people worship God. One of the decisions we made early on was, well, we recognize our faith heritage in Churches of Christ, but we also know there's a lot of variety within that. But we wanted to give our children opportunities to experience different churches, and so as they were growing up, we would visit other places and go and say, we want to know, how do other people worship styles, liturgy, or whatever, and then we could talk about that. And I think that was something that was important to us, but as we raised our children, but it was really important to me, just in my own faith development, of understanding, why do I believe what I believe? Is it because that's the way I've always done it? Is that what I've always heard it? And it's helpful to hear other ways and other people's thoughts and perspectives. So I've tried to always be open-minded to that. I still very much enjoy, and we still do, we go to visit other churches at times. Now, I'm with Scott as much as I can, and I'm a big supporter of Scott Meyer, and love being with our church family, but we really enjoy going to other places periodically just to connect. One of the side, I'm going on too long about this maybe, but one of the things I've really particularly enjoyed is going to church somewhere, walking in the church and saying, oh, I didn't know you went to church here. And they said, well, do you? Welcome. And you just don't know that maybe in your conversation, at least we hadn't had that. Where do you attend? Opportunity, and you see people in a different context than work or social or whatever you may have known them. And I've enjoyed that, particularly in our community, the Belton Temple area, being able to experience that. So we landed at Western Hills. People often wonder, why are you at Western Hills? It's in Temple, and you're very Belton. I'm all Belton. We actually landed there because we had been visiting around when we moved to the area, visiting around, trying all the churches, and there were a number of young people our age who we had gone to school with in Abilene who were attending that church.
Wow. And
it was actually kind of a surprise when we walked in and said, oh, I remember you from school. What are you doing here? And you live here? And so we very quickly kind of found some familiar faces, I guess, if you were. And as I guess is our nature, we sink pretty deep roots, and so that became our home and stayed that way. Yes. So church has evolved over time and years, and I'll give you, since you mentioned Scott Meyer, he's a dear friend, but I had a pretty instrumental role in getting him to move to Temple and coming to Western Hills. I went and recruited him. I had somebody said, he's somebody you need to go look for. I was working a lot with our youth program, and we were in need of a youth pastor, youth minister, and so I went and got him and convinced him this is where he and Erica needed to move, and they came.
Wow. Yeah.
And very thankful for that opportunity. So we have we talk often about that first conversation we had where I was trying to sell him of why he should come, why this was a good opportunity for him.
I call him baby face. I said he got a little baby face, but and I just laugh about it, and so
he's young.
Back. Yeah.
He's all young. Yeah.
Good.
He's a great he's a great minister. He's a great student of the Word, and just a generally good guy. So
Right,
good friend.
yes. I know him personally, and
Yeah.
I mean, he's on target. So I don't have nothing against him. It's all for him. Excuse me. But I like how you talked about your instillment and all of that, but how you have engaged yourself, and you don't just say it's like when you go to college sometimes it's like, do I make my bed up, or I don't have to because my parents not here. It's kind of that way. So like I say, sometimes the trials and tribulations that we go to get us closer to the Lord.
Absolutely.
Because we say, now, okay, wait, now, okay, I understand. I'm not doing that again, or I have no inclination of trying to get closer into the world, but I want to get closer to the Lord. So I really do appreciate that, and some people keep faltering and faltering, but that wasn't your intake. Your intake was to, hey, okay, I know what's out there, nothing out there for me, so let me get back to where my roots, where it is from. So I would appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and again, the key thing in that, and I want to be real clear. God took good care of me, but He put people in my path.
Yes.
And I can, as most of us, everybody I've talked to has similar kind of story. There are people who come along in your journey who help guide you and mentor you, or steer you away from something, and kind of, maybe it's correction, maybe it's just guidance, maybe it's just a role model.
Yes.
I want to be like him. I want our family to look like theirs, and they become people you want to be like, and that I really believe God gives us people to help shape us,
Right.
and so again, I can think of a number of people in my life who have had tremendous influence on me along that journey and faith
Right.
journey. People that I look to as giants in the faith, for example. So, yeah, that's
that's
part of that process.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about your role as the president and CEO of Belton Chamber of Commerce. I know when you're around the table and you see people that's there, and sometimes we got to get them on the same page. Now, I'm stealing this from the chief of Temple, and he said you don't not only get them on the bus, but you got to get them in the right
Got to get
seat.
them on the right seat. That's
And
right.
I mean, that just captivated my mind when he said that. And I'm like, well, I got to use that. But Chief, we know it was you that said that, so I do give him accolades on that. And so, how do you do that, and how do you work that out?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. You can have a lot of great people, but if they're not in the right roles, if they're not utilized well, they're frustrated, and they may also frustrate everybody. It doesn't work well. So one of the challenges of leadership is, how can we help utilize people's talents and gifts and skills for the greater good? And that's finding what role do they fit best in. And just because they don't do something well doesn't mean that they don't have great value to the whole.
Right.
You just have to find how to do that. Having said that, let me back up a little bit and say let me back up even a little bit further. I'm not a lifetime Chamber of Commerce guy. This is a recent career I got drafted into out of retirement. I am a counselor. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I spent my work career in helping professions, working in residential treatment and inpatient hospitals and community mental health, Central County Services, MHMR. Spent some time in that. And so I'm a social worker at heart. I'm a counselor. I'm a marriage and family counselor. And I spent a lot of time in that clinical world working with people. I got into then management or administration, supervision of others doing that rather than doing the direct care myself. And that was my career. And what I found in that, I often say I used more counseling skills in my role as a manager than I ever did as in direct counseling, because what you're doing is working with people and helping people utilize their strengths, problem solve, work together with others, build teams. And so I spent most of my career really building teams together. I did that. I had the opportunity to serve on the Belton School Board for a long time. And that was really a passion that I had, that I believe that we can make this is a personal bias, but I really believe you can make the biggest impact on a community by impacting your local public schools.
Right.
Now,
That's
there are
true.
a lot of great ways you can impact a community. My chosen one is with the public schools because we had opportunity and impact with so many children, and in Belton, where we were have been growing rapidly for many years. The question always was, how do we maintain the Belton small town feel while we are growing so fast? That's been the question we've been asking for decades. This all really does tie together and get back to your question.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm not off too far, but in that arena, I spent a lot of time developing team and how can we work together and how do we find people's strengths and best utilize them and put them at the front so that it's for the benefit of the whole. We're better together. We are stronger together when we work together. And we don't want to leave anyone behind. And I really believe that. I believe that as a counselor, as a social worker. I believe that as a manager. I believe that as a Christian. I believe that as a family. All different angles. I think that's really important. So when I retired from my mental health, behavioral health career, when I retired almost 5 years ago now from the school board, I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do, but I remember saying, and I said this publicly, I even did an interview, several interviews for media, and I said, I don't know what's coming, but I know two things. One, we're not leaving this community. We're deeply entrenched and we're invested in this community, and God will find a way to use us in the community. And we don't, Legay, my wife, retired from teaching the same year I retired from the school board, at the same time. And so we went out together, and we said, we don't know what's next, but we know it'll be here, and God will have a plan for us. And we didn't know. Well, about 6 weeks later, I got drafted into the Chamber of Commerce, and I said, I'm not a Chamber of Commerce guy. That's not my career and my field. But I know how to love community, and I know how to interact with people, and I know how to build team. And so what I do, or what I see my role as at the chamber, is helping connect people. I'm a conduit. I'm a facilitator. I'm a convener. I get people together and I connect people together. You need to know. Somebody will say, "I'm trying to start a business. I'm struggling with my business, or I need something." Okay, let me hook you up with the right person, and I just get them together, and then I'll get out of the way. And good things happen out of that. And I've found that to be a role that I can play in our community of connecting people. Maybe it's convening people. Maybe it's calling everybody around the table that we need to work on a project or a strategy and do some planning for whatever it is. But getting the right people in.
Right,
I can be a convener in that respect. Maybe it's literally just saying, I know who you can talk to. I know a person who can help you with this, or that you need to know. And I do a lot of that. So again, it's that helping people find their spot. How did they contribute? I've found whatever my job was, whatever role, and again, whether it was my work career or my church ministry, and I spent a lot of time in church ministry doing a lot of things, primarily youth program stuff, but not exclusively. But what I found is people want to be engaged. They want to be included. They want to be involved. They want to serve, but they don't always know where to plug in or how. And so our task is leaders, they look to leaders. Our job as leaders then is to help them develop their skills and use their gifts to serve other people. And if you can get them on the right seat on the bus, I use that analogy again, then they find great joy and satisfaction out of that. And again, they can help somebody else. So part of that is helping them identify and understand how to use their skills and strengths, helping them connect with other people who can help balance that and meet the needs that they have a weakness or a need area in. And people respond really well to that. Again, I think we all want the same thing. We all want to belong. We all want to be useful and productive and uh, and feel like we're contributing to something greater than ourselves. And I believe at our core, even though I launch into some philosophical thing here, but I won't. But I think we've our society and culture has made individualism and self-sufficiency such a high value. But at the core, we're not created that way. God didn't create us to be individuals.
Right,
He created us
exactly.
to be part of community. That's what the church is. That's what marriage is. That's what we're relationship people. God created us in His image, and I believe that means a lot of things. But I believe that means we're people who connect with other people, and we don't function well in isolation. So, what my job, again, circle that back around Chamber of Commerce. I love what I get to do most days, most of the time. Like everything, there's those mundane jobs. I take the trash out too and do all those kind of things. But what I love doing is connecting people together and giving people opportunities to use their talents and gifts to make the community a better place. I tell people all the time, I used to tell people when I hired them, you're here to make us better. When you join our business, when you join our school district, when you join our church, your job is to make us better. Not just join because you thought we've got something good. You came to make us better because you bring something to the table. And people respond to that, and that's a good thing. So.
Wow, that's awesome. That's almost like President Kennedy, don't you know?
Well, he is significant. I'm old enough that I can tell you some stories. My grandfather and all about President Kennedy, and there's a saying. Robert Kennedy has a saying, and I've got this little plaque in my home. He talked about you make ripples. It's like dropping a small stone in a lake. It just makes little ripples, but 1,000 little ripples all over overlapping make changes, and that's our role. We make ripples. We do little things, but together we can make big things. I'm paraphrasing that, not saying it as well as Kennedys do, but yeah, it's that idea.
Wow,
We're better
that's
together.
good. Yes, yes.
And on that, I'm saying better together. We've adopted that as our 2023 theme for the Chamber of Commerce, and it will be our theme. This is a scoop. We haven't publicly announced this. It'll be our theme for the Belton 4th of July Parade this year.
Well, you just
Better
said it.
together. I just you got a scoop out of me. I didn't intend to say that yet, but we're excited to see how people will show that. Who can come together? We are such a polarized country right now, world, but certainly our country, our state, where the extremists on both sides are just fighting.
Yes.
But we're better together.
Yes, true.
And we've got to fight against that polarization and that strife. We've got to work together. We don't need churches splitting. We don't need communities splitting. We certainly don't need our country splitting. We need to be working together. And I think most people want that.
Right. Now, scripture-wise, it says one could put 1,000 to flight, two could put 10,000 to flight. So the idea is come together as one. So I really do.
That's it.
You
That's
said
it.
it. You
That's
said
exactly it. That is exactly it. So
that's awesome. Now let's talk about your latest adventure.
Okay.
What 3 days you just came back from Israel?
we
you still got jet lag.
Yep. I'm still
So if you
still
fall
dealing
asleep,
with
everybody, don't worry about it. He'll wake back up.
you got me energized now. You got me going. Yeah, we returned Friday evening from Israel, from 2 weeks in Israel, Israel and Palestine. This was not our. We've been before. In fact, our most recent time was 2020, right before the pandemic shut down. We returned just before, as the world shut down. But we had a wonderful experience. My daughter and our daughter and son-in-law own a company. It's called Travel the Text. And Travel the Text is they lead study trips to the land of the Bible. And it's an experiential learning experience. It's not just a tourist go see the sites. It's studying ahead of time before you go. It's getting into the Word in the land of the Bible. And so we spent 2 weeks being immersed in that. And again, we've been before and done this trip, but I still learn things. I get insights that I didn't have. Some of that's I'm a remedial learner. I need repetitive to let it catch me again. But there's so much to learn. It's such a rich experience. And anybody who's been there knows that you see things and you say, oh, that's where this happened. Oh, well, that makes more sense. It makes the stories we read about make more sense when you see context. That's true in anything. When you travel, you see places and you go, oh, that's what they were talking about. Oh, that Grand Canyon really is big. You know, pictures don't do it justice when you see pictures and things, when you're there and you experience. But the other thing that's really meaningful to me is living in that culture, being in that culture. Certainly you're at hotels and things, but still getting out and being able to interact with people who live there and hear their stories. And one of the things that we have opportunity to do is go visit with people. And, you ask them their name and how long have they lived there and what's their family story. And I found people do that anywhere you go in the world, but always interesting to hear people's story. And I'll just tell you a couple of things I want to tell you about this particular trip. But we learn a lot about hospitality. I think, and we've always tried to have our home be a welcoming place, and we want to be hospitable to any guests who come. We don't get hospitality in our country like they get it over there. They do hospitality at a whole nother level of giving, and it's hard to even describe how overwhelmingly generous they are and thoughtful, and they do things that it's stunning, shocking, and uncomfortable, frankly, because it's easier to give than to receive sometimes. But very kind. It's part of their culture. And in fact, you can read that then in the Bible, stories about things that happen in the Bible. It goes, that's that culture. That's that hospitality culture. So the other thing I was just going to mention for me, we talk, and it's interesting when you go, there were people from here who went, and one of the questions is, how do we explain this when we go home? What do we tell people? Well, usually what we say is, you got to go. You got to experience this, because we can't explain. I can show you pictures, but it's not going to communicate. You just got to go. But there are some things that I can't explain. I can't explain how being on the southern steps of the temple in Jerusalem and knowing that Jesus stood on these steps and taught on these steps, and then Peter spoke at Pentecost, as recorded in Acts. That happened right here. That takes my breath away. And we know, there's some places that you don't know exactly where Jesus was born, but you're, as Jeff, our leader, says, you may not be in the exact spot, but you're as close as you've ever been. And that's breathtaking. That's humbling, and it's awe-inspiring, and it is an amazing thing to walk where Jesus walked while you're learning how Jesus walked and how he wants me to. So it's a moving, emotionally draining in some ways, intellectually stimulating and exhausting, a lot of walking, so physically demanding in some ways, but such a rich experience to learn those things and to be, but really, I always said, and I'll end this with the statement, I usually tell people, why do you want to go to Israel? I want to walk where Jesus walked, is what I've always said.
Exactly.
I was convicted right before we left that I needed to quit saying that I needed to walk how Jesus walked, not where Jesus walked. And I kind of God kind of got my attention on that one. And as the trip progressed, that became real. I was hearing, this is how Jesus walked. This is how Jesus talked to people. This is why Jesus spoke to the Samaritan woman at the well, why Jesus healed, why Jesus told the Good Samaritan story, why Jesus touched the lepers. His openness and how Jesus walked, not just where he walked, but how he walked, has a profound effect on my introspection and assessment of what I need to be living here in the Belton area.
So it's I'm getting this as this is more of a deeper revelation,
Sure.
much closer than you was before, because you have you experienced this again. I know you went earlier within the years, but you experienced again, and so it's more of a I'm getting more intimate style.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It really is it's a I don't want to call it a wake up call. That sounds a little trite, but it's a pay attention. Like God's tapping me on the shoulder saying, "Pay attention to this. I want you to notice this." And we get busy. I get busy in life and work and family and all the things, the parties and the birthday parties that we're going to this weekend and the things that we do. We get busy, and it's good to step back and have those experiences where you can really see what's God's plan for us.
Wow.
So I'm very thankful again that we've had that opportunity. I realize that most people don't have that opportunity. I wish more could, because it is. Everybody says trip of a lifetime. It's that opportunity that can really, really impact your life in a great way. Yeah.
So when are you all going to come together and give a full detailed thing that you all did? I know it may be upcoming in the following weeks or months.
Yeah, I don't
like
know. That's a good question. I don't know that we've even talked about what do we do with that. I will let me in terms of a formal. Let's give a trip report. We don't have anything like that planned. I think one of the things we've talked about is you can't not be impacted by those experiences. You can't not have that come through in how you live. Now, I hope we don't all just fall back into our routines and forget that in weeks and days. But again, like everything, whether you go to a revival or we send kids to youth camp or you have things that that kind of get you excited and revved up, and then that fades off. We go to church on Sunday to get. To praise God and to get fed so that we can get through the week. So there's going to be some fading of that, but our hope is, and I've had this conversation with other members on the group, on the trip, that we don't want to change. We want the changes and the things we learn to be lasting.
Right.
And so how do you do that? Well, we actually had a little conversation about it. How do you do that? Well, you stay in contact. We have our group has a kind of a little private Facebook group where we're going to share pictures and share memories and share prayer requests and share struggles and share experiences and kind of relive that for a while. And again, those relationships are going to be important. There are people from here that we knew before we went. There are other people we met on the trip, but those folks, I think we will always have something that we shared together, and we'll get together and have dinner and kind of talk that through. And how's that impacting our life now? What's that doing different? And you find opportunities to share that story. I mean, I wasn't expecting this, and you didn't. When you invited me to join you didn't know that I'd just be back from share. I think when you contacted me or sent me a text, I was in Israel and said, I can't talk to you now, and whatever time of the day and night it was there, I don't even know. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to fumble around and try and share some of those experiences. It's so much. It's so rich. It's so real. Mm-hmm. The Bible is real. Mm-hmm. The stories are real. The characters are real. And I think finding ways of communicating that and sharing that, I don't know. We'll see what opportunities God provides, what doors are open to us, and that's again what comes.
Well, you pierced my heart when you said we're better together. When you said that, like like it jolted inside me. I'm like, wow, that's awesome right there, And if we just keep that concept and keep it on a continuous basis, and not just for now, and and it fades away, but it's something that would instill into you. And when you're driving down the street or even walking down the your walkway, and you hear that in your mindset, we're better together, and so it would make us do better. It'll make us think differently, and not only think about us four and no more, but think about the community and how it can impact more. I mean, That's what God is looking for. He's looking for us to come together, And the key is, sometimes, we let, just say skin color, we let our finances, we let different things come, division come against us. But the idea, if we just say, okay, I don't care if I was born on the track, around the track, or even beside the track. Let's come together and work this thing out. And I think that's what he's looking for us to come to unity.
Pastor, you're right on, and you're preaching the message that I heard and was resonating all while we were in the land of the Bible. That just as Jesus, as God, not just Jesus, even before Old Testament stories, and as you look at Abraham and variety of study throughout the Bible, but certainly what Jesus did is everybody has value.
Yes.
Everybody is welcome at the table. Everybody. You don't just love your neighbors. You love your enemies.
Right.
You go the extra mile. You do, some of those teachings are, they're things that's hypothetical or it's whatever. If you start making the reality of what it really means and what it could mean for us, it's maybe a little more transparent than I ought to be, but I was driving today, and as I was driving down the road, I was noticing people walking along the sidewalk. I was noticing people in other cars more than I had, and it caught my attention. It wasn't just cars going by, or I wasn't just driving. I was noticing people, and it caught my attention a little bit, and I was, those are people God created. Those are not people who are my friends or in my circle. I don't know who they are. I don't know their name, but they're creations of God. They're who belong.
Right.
And I need to do a better job. We as a church need to do a better job. We as a community need to do a better job of making sure that everybody has the seat on the bus.
Yeah.
Now, I'll go back to that one, but the right seat. But we got to do better at being inclusive and open. Hurts my heart when I see division and stereotypes prevent all the isms, prevent us from treating people as God wants us to treat them. I've been convicted of that. I got to do better at that because you're comfortable with who you're around, right? But anyway, that's important, I think. And as a community, we really are better together. And the more we experience that, the more we believe it, and it's true. I mean, it's just true.
Yes.
So.
I challenged the congregants here, and I said, let's go out and get the souls. I said, now I know that we look at this person or that person. I said, but go get the homeless. Go get, and they kind of look, the homeless, in the concept, you might say, well, they have no value, but they do, because you don't know what the homeless could tell you. I mean, they may not can't give in the offering plate, but it's not about offering plate. It's about people, and not only that, but the heart of the people. And Jesus did tell us. He said, "What you do to the least is what you do, to me." And sometimes we like, no, if they're not a doctor, they're not a lawyer, they're not, a politician, then they have no value here. But they do here, because we have a lot of jobs, and I mean by volunteer jobs, that need to be filled, and they could be the right person for that right position. So
Exactly.
I say, go get them, go get them.
And there's a place for everybody.
Yes.
We've got to thank you for, and man, keep encouraging, Pastor. We need that. I need that, to hear that over and over and over. We have to be willing to give people opportunities.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm go back and when I was on the school board, one of the things I was passionate about, and I'd say over and over and over until people got tired of hearing it, was our job is to provide opportunities for kids.
Yes.
There are however many kids we have in school right now, there's that many different sets of skills and interests, and Our job is to provide enough of a variety of opportunities so that everybody can find their path,
Right.
can find their passion, can find their success. And I think just as that was true in schools, because if you tell every child they have to take this class and follow this exact track, many of them aren't going to be successful because that's not their interest, you know? But if you have options and they can choose what they're interested in, and some may gravitate to athletics, and some will gravitate to fine arts, and some are going to gravitate to some CTE kinds of activities, and all those different options. The more options we can give kids, the better likelihood that they're going to find their passion and their success. It's no different for those kids than it is for us as adults, and whether it's the people walking down the street, whether it's the people we meet in Walmart or HEB or wherever, if we can see that they have, if we can provide them the opportunities to find their passion, to find their way to help, everybody wants to be needed. Everybody wants to help other people. Everybody wants to contribute. And our task as leaders is to provide those opportunities for them.
You know, you took me back down memory lane, and I don't think I told too many people this, but I'll say it tonight. You know, I still remember May 31st, 1980, just graduated from Tiger Field. You know, that's when we had it on the football field and everything. You know, weather was nice. So we had it out there, and we were sitting on the back of a truck right afterwards. And I had my mindset, now what am I going to do now? I mean, I had no idea. I mean, I was lost in my mindset, you know, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And so when I see people that's walking, and I don't mean for exercise, I'm talking about, you know, that's their transportation. I said, that used to be me. That used to be me right there. But I have, you know, I said, and so I reach out. You know, I see where they was going, and I had no idea what to do, what to say. I know I was going to, it was called Temple Junior College back then. But, you know, I was so fond of Belton's, you know, and that's what I thought of. And it was like almost the saddest moment at that present time. They just graduated now.
Graduation is supposed to be a celebration, but
Yes.
it's a sad thing because you're ending. It's an
Yes,
ending.
yes.
It's supposed to be commencement. You're launching and commencing, but it's a scary time
Yes.
because what's next? You don't know. And I know my role. I know my comfort place here. What's next? So we've got to prepare people for that. We've got to
Yes.
find people. Stuff that I appreciate that. I'm very thankful that you found your path.
Yes, yes. I tell people all the time, you know, well, they say my dad, they say I got the gift of gab from my dad because he knew everybody, he talked to everybody, and he could walk up to someone and just start talking to them. And I can do the same thing, you know, so I know where I got my gift of gab from. But it's you know, let you know that I'm friendly. You know, very seldom I see people that I don't gel with. Very seldom. But when I do, I make myself gel. What I do, I go sit by them. You know, I mean, go sit right by them in a meeting or something, and they be able to just, I just be laughing, you know, having fun. I said, we're gonna talk, we're gonna have fun, you know, and so it just, you know, just things I do it, and you know, it doesn't, you know, try to intimidate them, nothing like that, but that you know that hey, we're gonna work this thing out, you know. So I really do appreciate that. You know, I know you just told me a little bit what went on in Israel. You know, you can't tell everything in 2 weeks in 10 minutes. You can't do it. You know, it's just impossible. But, you know, I appreciate you coming, you know, and not only that, but you're really opening up and let the people know who is Randy. You know, who is this guy that's in the red all the time? Who is this guy that get things going on? And, you know, some things that you talked about tonight, I had no clue. It was just, you know, like I said, we talk about random things, good things, but like saying it's wholesome. And so after people will see this tonight, they say, I didn't know Randy did this. I didn't know he went to ACC. I didn't know this and all that. But you know, we're not supposed to know everything about people. But it's a connecting tool. Just like you said, you like to connect.
And I appreciate you asking the questions and giving me an opportunity. I can't imagine people really want to know that. I usually think people don't want to hear my story. They don't want to know about me. And I try to spend my time asking people to tell me about them, and I don't really necessarily share those kind of things. I hope I want to be accepting. I want to be a safe place for people to talk, and I want to be a cheerleader. I spend a lot of my energy being a cheerleader, and whether it's for our kids, I've always had a goal. I wanted to make sure every kid who was on the field or the stage or the court knew there was somebody out there cheering for them. Whether their parents were there, okay, that parents have to cheer for you. But that guy, he's cheering for us too. And maybe the
Right.
mom and dad aren't there because they're at work or whatever. Okay, there's somebody out here cheering for me.
Right.
I want our kids, but beyond the kids, I want people. I want our, one of the great things that we're experiencing, and it's not new, but we seem to be exploding in Belton with new businesses opening up.
Yes.
We've
yes.
talked about the depot, and I won't spend much time on that because I think you need to talk to the folks who are really on that project. But 5 new businesses opened up, boom, just like that in the last
Yes.
month. These are not franchises of some big corporation. These are families. These are people with a dream. These are folks who are just doing the work, following their passion.
Yeah.
And it is so exciting to see people have success following their passion.
Yeah.
And I have just gotten such great joy being a cheerleader for them and encouraging them and supporting them and telling other people and saying, come on, you got to come with me. You got to meet these folks. You got to come have dinner here. You got to check this place out. Because it really is fun to see people be successful. So I spend most of my time being a cheerleader and being a connector and all those kind of things. But yeah, there's stories. I've got stories, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to tell a few of those stories.
That's good. Well, like I said, got to invite you back, later on, whenever you get opportunity. If you want to bring your wife, that's fine, or bring other people, that's fine. I just like to know what's going on in the community and bring people that's in the community to let them know what's going on. And this is not your world, it's not my world, but it's God's world. And what we're doing is we just connecting. And it still pierces my heart so much as, you're saying that, we're better together, which is scripture also. It doesn't paraphrase as that, but it still means the same thing. We're better together than we are apart. So I really do appreciate that. What's your last minute comments or shares until you come back again?
Well, I guess what I'd say is I hope that happens. I'd love to come back. I've always enjoyed visiting with you, but this has been a special opportunity. I'm honored to be asked. I love what you're doing here. I'm so excited about the things that A New Day Fellowship is doing and what you're pastoring in this community. We have such great opportunities here.
Yes.
We are so fortunate. I don't use the word luck. I don't think it's luck. I think we're fortunate. I think we work at it, and God provides His providential blessing to us, and we need to give Him praise and thanks for that. But we have such wonderful opportunities here for our families, for all of us, and we need to not take that for granted. And so, whatever we can do to work together, whatever we can do to break down barriers, we need to be about that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't have time to go into some of that, but I've been just immeasurably benefited and blessed by relationships I've had that aren't traditional, expected, that are maybe outside of my demographic, if you will, because we learn how to love each other.
Exactly.
And I think, I'm not special. I've been loved. I've been given opportunities, again, by folks who I admire and adore, and many of those folks and that I'm very thankful for those opportunities. We were, I'll say this and I'll stop. I spent this morning at UMHB campus. We had it was an ethics course for social workers and counselors, but the focus was on self-care. How do we take care of ourselves so that we can care for other people? There's a lot of discussion, great discussion. It was a really rich morning, but the diversity of the group, sharing challenges, sharing needs, sharing here's what we do to help other people and to be able to do this. hard work, was really it was a good conversation, and enjoyed the opportunity. We need to do more of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
We need to, and I will say I ended it, and then I was speaking with one of the presenters, and I said, we need to be having the hard conversations. There are things that, because she had made the comment, she said, I know some of this is not comfortable for us to talk about. And I wanted to encourage her. I said, look, I need to hear things that aren't comfortable for me to hear. I need to squirm a little bit. I need to know that my naivety or my life experiences or my privilege or whatever it is shelters me from knowing the reality of somebody else's life. And so we need to have those hard conversations. We need
Right.
to talk about what are the barriers. We need to talk about what are the things that are preventing us from being what we were intended to be. And so I don't know what that looks like, but I want to be an encourager of we need to be talking. You know,
Yes,
this
sir. Yes, sir.
society that we're living in, where people hide behind a computer or a phone and throw darts on social media, is just a horrible, horrible way. It's I call it the downfall of civilization, our lack of civility. We need to be together. We need to be having hard conversations together. We need to be struggling together. We need to be crying together. We need to be cheering together. We need to have all those emotions together, because we're better together.
Yes, sir.
I'll stop there.
No, it's amen. That is so good. You know, time went by so fast. I didn't know it was this time. But you know, I'm sorry to keep you on so long. But it was so good. When you're having fun, it just goes on and on
Well,
and
for
on.
us anyway, they might have gotten tired of listening to us, but we'll enjoy it.
Well, they said, well, we can watch the video later on. But I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us this evening. I know that other things you could have been doing, could be at a game or, you know, whatever, taking pictures or whatever, but you decided to come here and just share your heart. So I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with us and wearing your red. Wear your red as long as you choose to. That's your prerogative.
You'll see me in red. That's
Nothing wrong with
That's
it.
who I am.
And thank you, everybody, for watching us.
Thank
New Day
you.
Fellowship Church, growing church, new vision for a multicultural generation. Also, check out if you need a church home, there's Western Hills Church of Christ, which is on the northern side off of I-35. Pastor Scott Myers, if you're interested, go hang out with them, you know. Find a church home. That's the key. Find a church home, and not only just find a church home, but jail and get inside and get involved with what's going on. There's a lot of churches that has diminished, or a lot of churches has went down as in attendance because of COVID, and that's no excuse no more, everybody, okay? That's no more excuse. We see you at Walmart, we see you at Sam's, we see you at the movie theaters, we definitely see you at the football game. So come back to church and find a place that you can worship God, because it's all about Him and not about us. God bless you. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye.